My wife whispered to her lover, "Once I get his money from divorce, we'll be fine," while pretending to be the perfect partner. I stayed silent, watching her trap herself step by step. In relationships, trust is everything until you start noticing small details that do not fit. Sometimes, silence and patience can reveal more than any confrontation. Let me first tell you about Sarah. She was 28 years old when we got married. She worked in operations at a medium-sized company, doing that kind of corporate job that keeps the lights on, but never really moves the needle. Pretty? Yes, but not in that high-maintenance way that drains your wallet and your patience. More like the girl next door type who looks good in jeans and does not need 2 hours to get ready to go out to dinner. Sarah was smart enough to hold a conversation, responsible enough to keep a steady job, but never ambitious enough to seek something bigger. She seemed content with her routine. Work, gym, Netflix, repeat. I liked that at first. No drama, no unrealistic expectations, no pressure to finance some fantasy lifestyle she could not afford on her own. She came from a middle-class family. Nothing fancy, nothing broken. Her parents were still married, lived in the suburbs, drove sensible cars, normal people. The kind of background that usually produces reliable, down-to-earth partners. Or at least I thought so. Sarah was the type to split the bill on the first few dates. She did not expect expensive gifts just because, and she seemed genuinely impressed when I paid the bill without making a big fuss. She never acted like she was entitled to my money, which made me want to spend it on her. Funny how that works. For most of our relationship, Sarah felt like a partner. She contributed what she could. I covered the rest, and neither of us kept score. She cooked, I paid the bills. She planned the weekend, I financed it. It felt natural, balanced. We were together for 7 years. We got married in November. I was 31 years old, with a stable income, no debt, my own car, and a good sum of money in different accounts. I am not rich, but I do well. I have a business in a rather specific niche, and I have been smart with money since my early 20s. I learned, young, not to squander my salary trying to appear rich. I have always played the long game. In the relationship, I covered most of the expenses. Rent, almost always the food, vacations, dinners, expensive birthday gifts. I did not keep track. Sarah worked in operations at a medium-sized company, a decent job, but one that would never give her a large income. She contributed from time to time, but I carried most of the weight, and I did not see it as a problem. That is how I was raised. If you have more, you contribute more. We lived well. Nothing ostentatious, but comfortable. A 2-bedroom apartment, a decent car, a dog, subscriptions we barely used. From the outside, it seemed like we had our lives figured out. The wedding was simple but elegant. I covered everything. Venue, food, rings, all without debt or collections. Sarah chose the theme and the dress. I chose the photographer and the logistics. We even had a prenuptial agreement because my lawyer recommended it. Sarah did not object. She said it made sense. For a moment, I thought I had found someone who understood the idea of partnership, not just romance. Then the strange changes began. A month after the wedding, Sarah started being busier at work, several nights in a row with late meetings or team activities. I did not make a scene. I am not jealous. I do not need to track my wife as if she were a pizza order. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but the signs piled up, glued to her phone, taking it everywhere, hiding the screen, putting it face down, even at night. Small details, but you cannot ignore them if you have a brain. So I started to observe without reacting. I did not accuse or ask weird questions. I just played dumb and watched. Because if someone is doing something shady, sooner or later they slip up, especially if they think you do not suspect anything. And Sarah got too confident. One night, she left her phone on the couch and went to take a shower. I did not go to snoop, but the screen lit up and I glanced over. A message from an unsaved number. I opened it, and there was Sarah writing to a guy, clearly her coworker, something like, "I am going to divorce him. Once I have the settlement money, we will be fine." I do not remember the exact words, but that phrase stuck with me. It was not, "I am unhappy." It was not, "I am confused." It was cold, calculated planning, as if I were a check with legs. Sarah was not just cheating on me. She was actively planning how to take a part of what I had built and leave clean. That is what broke me. It was not the betrayal itself. People cheat, it does not matter. But the fact that Sarah was treating me like a financial stepping stone, Like some poor idiot who would hand over half of his assets while she left with some clown from her work who probably still shares his Netflix password with his ex. That is what set me off. I did not say a word. That is where most men go wrong. They get emotional, they confront, they make a drama, and they show their cards too soon. Not me. I stayed calm, very calm. I acted normal, even better than normal. I smiled more. I asked Sarah about her day. I took her to brunch the following weekend as if nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, I was already laying the groundwork. The first thing I did was to review what was legally mine and what was not. I confirmed the prenuptial agreement was solid. I updated my accounts. I removed Sarah from everything she did not need to have her name on. I moved some funds. I booked time with my lawyer and reviewed the terms of the trust one had opened 2 years earlier. I did not make any abrupt moves. I did not change passwords or anything obvious, just subtle things that would not raise suspicion. Sarah had no idea. While she was writing to her work boyfriend about the new life they were going to build with my money, I was building the wall that would completely demolish that plan. That is where the Real story begins. After seeing that message, I had 2 options, confront or prepare. I chose to prepare. Most men in my place would have exploded. I get it. Your wife is cheating on you. She is talking about taking your money and building a new life with a guy who probably still asks his sister for the Wi-Fi password. That kind of betrayal gets under your skin. But here is the key. If you react quickly, you lose control. You alert her, she goes into damage control mode and might even play the victim. The next thing you know, your accounts are frozen. You are sleeping on a friend's couch and half your money is gone. Not me. I am not made for scenes. I am made for systems. The first thing was to start gathering evidence silently, screenshots of messages. I copied the metadata. I even sent the images to a fake Gmail account I set up with a made-up name. I did not want to leave anything on my phone or laptop where Sarah could find it. I made sure the timestamps were clear. I even screen recorded scrolling through the entire conversation so Sarah could not later claim I manipulated anything. Then I started observing her more closely. Not in a stalking way, just taking note of patterns. What time she left for work, how long she took, what excuses she used. I started noticing phrases she repeated, probably rehearsed with him. The more I listened, the more obvious it was that she wanted to maintain the facade of a happy marriage while preparing her exit. Sarah would suggest things like selling the car to cut expenses or taking money out of investments to open a savings account for the future. Sweet, right? I agreed to everything. Yes, honey, that sounds smart. Sure, let us talk to a financial advisor. Let us make sure we are both protected. And I documented everything. Behind the scenes, I restructured everything. First, I removed her access to anything that was not legally required. We had a joint account, but with only a couple of thousand, used for daily expenses. I moved my salary to a private account that Sarah did not know about. She did not notice because I left enough money in the joint account to cover the usual expenses. I had an investment account in my name, a retirement plan, and a business portfolio. My lawyer reviewed everything and helped me transfer most of it into a trust one had created years earlier but never activated. That trust never had Sarah's name on it, and now it held almost all my assets. Sarah kept coming home late, pretending to be tired from meetings, getting into bed next to me as if everything was fine. It was almost funny. If I had not been so focused on making sure she left empty-handed, I probably would have been disgusted. One night, Sarah came home freshly showered with her hair still wet, saying she had been working late on a presentation. I nodded, told her I was proud, handed her the remote, and went back to my emails. That night I did 2 things. I requested a call and message history for the last 2 months. We were on the same phone plan, her mistake, and I installed a security camera in the living room, not to catch her in the act, but to have a record of who came and went, in case I ever needed to prove she had visitors while I was away. I also checked her social media, but not hers directly, her friends instead. Almost everyone gets careless in their stories or comments. Sure enough, a coworker posted a photo from a happy hour and tagged Sarah. She was not working late. She was smiling in front of a table with the guy I assumed was her work boyfriend. I saved that too. At this point, it was no longer about revenge, but about control. I did not just want to catch her. I wanted to dismantle the plan she thought she was building, brick by brick, without drama, without shouting, just making sure that when she made her move, she would crash. Around this time, Sarah started mentioning the idea of separating for a while. She said she was feeling weird and needed space. I nodded, told her I understood, and asked if she wanted to talk about it. Sarah said, "Not yet." Perfect, no problem. Inside, I was laughing. The paperwork was already 80% done. My lawyer had the draft of the divorce agreement in a folder on my desk. It detailed the prenuptial agreement, protected all my premarital assets, and made it clear that Sarah had no claim to anything I had built before or during the marriage. The only thing she was going to get was what she had contributed, which was not much. I even reviewed my business contracts to make sure my company would not be exposed if Sarah tried to make claims later. Everything was hermetically sealed. Sarah started acting nicer after that, suddenly affectionate, asking if I wanted to plan a weekend getaway, telling me she appreciated how calm I had been. She said she felt like we were reconnecting. Yes, of course she felt that way. Sarah thought she still had time to perfect her exit. What she did not know was that I already had her checkmate written and ready to print. By that time, I was no longer playing the role of a husband for love. I was playing for the outcome. Sarah thought I was blind, maybe even weak. She had no idea I had already seen the message she sent to her little office boyfriend talking about divorcing me and using the settlement money to start a new life with him. That phrase stuck with me. Divorce money, as if she really believed she was going to cash in, as if our marriage had been an exit plan for her next step. I was not angry, just focused. You do not need to shout when you are already ahead. I kept quiet. I observed, acted normal, even better than normal. I leaned into the role. I cooked more, cleaned more, smiled more, gave her no reason to suspect anything was wrong. Meanwhile, every hour I was not with her, I spent cleaning up my accounts, separating my assets, and legally shielding everything. And then, like clockwork, the turning point came. Sarah started letting her guard down again, as if she believed I had fallen in love with her again. She got comfortable, too comfortable. And that is when I made my next move. I made a calculated decision. I knew exactly what time of the month it was. I knew her patterns and I planned it, not because I wanted to trap her, but because I wanted to control the timeline. A pregnancy would slow down her exit strategy and give me more time to finalize everything on my terms. I made sure it happened when I was ready. Sarah was already being careless with birth control. Some weeks she used it, others she forgot. I did not remind her of anything. I just made sure the timing coincided perfectly with my plan. I did not fake anything. I did not manipulate anything. I was simply strategic and kept everything else in place. Sure enough, Sarah got pregnant and told me in March. She came out of the bathroom with the stick in her hand, as if it were a miracle. She looked scared, but also excited. I gave her the reaction she wanted. Wide eyes, a hug, the whole show. Inside, I was already moving to phase 2. Pregnancy changes the rules. Now Sarah could not just leave and disappear into someone else's apartment. She had to stay, think, pause. And that is exactly what happened. Over the next few weeks, Sarah stopped writing to her work boyfriend as much. The tone went from flirty and planning the future to distant and vague, until it became complete silence. Finally, she told him she needed time to think about what was best for the baby. Not for us, not for our family, for the baby. That is when she turned all her attention back to me. She started acting like a wife again. She wanted to cook together. She asked about baby names. She talked as if the pregnancy had saved our marriage. She mentioned new beginnings and being better together. I played along. We started preparing the spare room as a nursery. Sarah asked for paint samples. I even helped tape the walls as if it were our new weekend project. Meanwhile, I was finalizing the paperwork with my lawyer, tightening every screw on the legal side. I was not going to be the guy who gets caught off guard at the last minute. I needed to be absolutely sure of one thing. I arranged a paternity test through my lawyer, completely legal. It only required a cheek swab during one of her doctor's visits. The results came a week later. 99.9% match. The child was mine. That actually made me feel better about the whole situation. Whatever Sarah had done, at least she did not try to pass off someone else's child as mine. Now I could move forward with complete certainty. I created a separate trust. I redirected all my financial channels. By the time April arrived, Sarah had no legal claim to anything I owned, except what she herself had contributed, which was not much. And she still knew nothing. She reached 10 weeks of pregnancy in early May. That was the milestone I was waiting for. After that, there would be no turning back. Everything was in motion, hers and mine. The day after her first ultrasound, Sarah came home with the printout as if it were a golden ticket. She was glowing with a soft, hopeful voice. She told me, "I really think this baby saved us." She looked me in the eye and said she was so happy we had not given up. I told her to sit down. I took out the folder, not a metaphor, a real folder with printed copies of messages, call logs, screenshots, bank statements, timelines. I placed it in front of her. I did not say anything at first. I just watched her open it. She turned the pages and started to realize what she was seeing. The message to her coworker about divorcing and taking the money, the messages where she said she could not wait to be free, the timestamps, the comparisons with the messages she sent me. She did not say a word. When she finally looked at me, I said, "I know everything, and I have always known." Then I told her I wanted a divorce. That was it. No shouting, no dramatic speech, just clear facts. Sarah panicked. She started asking questions. "When did you see this? Why did you not say anything? Can we talk about it?" No, we were past that. I told her the divorce papers were ready, that the assets were untouchable, that the evidence was backed up and time-stamped, that I was not going to fight for custody, but that I was going to protect what I had built. That all this time, while she thought she was playing me, I was preparing for this exact conversation. Sarah fell silent, probably thinking about how badly she had misread the whole situation. She thought I was a quiet, harmless guy who would let himself be steamrolled while she cashed out and left. She thought she was making a power move. Instead, she walked right into a checkmate. So yes, after Sarah sat there with the folder in front of her, turning page after page as if she were reading her own report card, the house fell silent. I did not say anything else. I did not need to. The evidence said it all. Every lie Sarah told, every little move she thought I had not noticed, it was all there, in her own words, with dates and proof. When she finally looked up, her face was different. Not sad, not regretful, just pale. Sarah knew it was over. Not just the relationship, but the fantasy she had built around it. The plan to leave with money, sympathy, and her new upgrade waiting for her at the finish line, gone. "I did not want things to go this far," Sarah said. "Sure." Then she tried the usual lines. "We can fix this, and let us not make hasty decisions yet. Think about the baby." I nodded politely. I was not rude. I was not aggressive, just calm. I told her, "Everything has already been filed." Sarah blinked. "What?" "I filed last week. Signed, sealed. My lawyer already has your copy. It should arrive tomorrow." It seemed as if the air had been knocked out of her. And here is the part that people like Sarah do not expect. You cannot cheat someone who has already made their move. Sarah thought she had time. She thought I was still confused. She thought I was one of those guys who sticks around for the sake of the child. No, I had already done the hard part months ago, emotionally detaching myself. Once that was done, the rest was just paperwork. I told her the basics. The prenuptial agreement stands. Everything I had before the marriage is still mine. Everything I built during the marriage was protected in a trust or out of her legal reach. Joint assets, minimal, maybe a couple of thousand in the shared account, and I left that untouched. The lease agreement was in my name only. Sarah had to leave. I was not being cruel. I was being efficient. At that moment, Sarah started to cry. Not loudly, not screaming, just soft, desperate tears, the kind that come when someone realizes the train they were on is not going to their original destination. "So that is it?" she asked. "Yes, that is it," I replied. The rest of that night was awkward. Sarah stayed in the guest room. She did not eat dinner. I watched a movie, finished an email to my lawyer, and went to bed early. I slept like a log. The next day at noon, Sarah had the official divorce packet in her inbox. My lawyer does not waste time. Every form, every detail already prepared. Clear custody terms, financial statements attached, no surprises. Just clean execution. Sarah tried to half fight it. She called her own lawyer, who probably charged her more than she could afford to tell her what she did not want to hear. There was nothing to take. Everything was protected. There was no marital property to divide, no spousal support to claim. She could not even claim me because she still had a job. As for the pregnancy, it did not change anything. I had already drafted a parenting agreement, shared custody, reasonable terms. I was not going to run away. I am not that guy. I will be there for the child 100% financially and personally. But Sarah made her choice. After a few days of silence, she asked to pause the process to talk. I told her, No, there is nothing to pause. When the other person spent months planning how to betray you, you do not negotiate with someone who planned to rob you in your sleep. A week later, Sarah started packing. She did not say where she was going. I did not ask. It was no longer my business. I only cared that she left without leaving problems, without damage, without theft, without post-breakup drama. She put her things in boxes, called a moving company, and left. The apartment fell silent. No fake smiles, no late-night excuses, no guessing games, just peace. I cleaned it thoroughly, changed the locks, canceled the lease early, and found a new place on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, just something fresh, where I would not be reminded of Sarah every time I walked into the kitchen. Meanwhile, I continued to document. I knew it was not completely over. Sarah had not fully accepted what happened. People like her rarely do. They think they can always come back, make up a new story, play the victim if necessary. So I saved every message, every call log, every follow-up email from Sarah's lawyer trying to reopen certain clauses. Everything went into the folder. The baby was still on the way. I was preparing for that. I had already spoken with a mediator and hired a co-parenting specialist. I will be ready when the time comes. The child did not ask for any of this, and I am not going to let Sarah ruin his life just because she ruined hers. I even set up a trust for the child, in my name only, controlled by me, accessible at 21 under specific conditions. Nothing his mother can touch or divert. I also updated my will. It may sound harsh, but if you are ever betrayed like this, you learn quickly that love means nothing without structure. Feelings fade, paperwork remains, and when people show you who they really are, believe them and protect yourself. So yes, that was the legal phase. The next will be when Sarah realizes that her little office boyfriend is not waiting for her. Believe me, he is not made for this. By the end of April, Sarah had completely moved out. She took her clothes, her makeup, a couple of books, and some framed photos that she probably did not want me to see again. No drama, no shouting, just uncomfortable silence, packing tape being ripped from boxes, and occasional sighs, as if she still could not believe it was happening. I helped her carry a box to the elevator, not because I cared, but because I wanted to make sure she left cleanly, with no lost chargers, no accidentally forgotten keys. Sarah did not say thank you nor goodbye. She just looked at the floor as if it were easier than looking me in the face. 2 hours later, I changed the locks. After that, everything was quiet for me, at least. I went back to work, to my routine, to eating food without a side of lies. The house was clean, the accounts intact, the credit impeccable, the lawyer on speed dial just in case. I was not celebrating, just living, calm, focused. But Sarah, a completely different story. The first clue came from a mutual friend, someone I never asked to keep me informed. But you know how people talk. He texted me one day. Hey, just so you know, Sarah is staying at her mother's house. I said, great, I did not ask for more. But he kept talking. Apparently, Sarah's plan to move in with her work boyfriend did not work out as expected. From what I was told, the guy took off, left her en read. Basically, one week he was talking about building a future, and the next he was saying things like, I need time to think, and this is moving too fast. No surprises there. Most men do not want to be the next chapter in someone's personal collapse story, especially when there is a baby on the way. A pending divorce and a guy like me in the background who clearly was not going down without a fight. It turns out that guy was not ready to be the replacement of the year, especially when the pregnancy was not his. Reality hit him hard, and he bolted. Sarah tried to write to him a couple of times. I know because she sent me an email asking if I had seen him or heard anything from him. Yes, Sarah really asked me that. I ignored her. That is when the cracks started to show. Really, Sarah began to send me more messages, almost always with the excuse of baby stuff, but I knew it was something else. Little phrases like, I hope you are okay, or maybe we should talk in person soon. I kept my answers short, answering only what was necessary, sticking to dates, medical appointments, and basic health issues, nothing more. At one point, Sarah tried to ask if we could reconsider the terms of the parenting agreement. She said she was going through financial difficulties. She wanted to know if I could support her a little more at this stage. I sent her my lawyer's number. There was no response after that. From what I could piece together from recognized comments, Sarah tried to stay with her mother for a while, but that did not last. They never got along. There was always that typical passive-aggressive tension between mother and daughter. Besides, Sarah's mother is old-fashioned and does not have much patience for people who ruin their own marriage and come back home expecting compassion. Afterwards, Sarah tried to rent a place on her own, but she had problems: insufficient income, few savings. My guess is she was counting on the divorce money she mentioned in her messages to Romeo. What irony. I later found out that she tried to move in with a friend from work, one she used to gossip with, but who probably did not know she was taking in a full-time existential crisis roommate. That did not last either. Sarah was bouncing from place to place, trying to find stability while the walls were closing in on her. Meanwhile, I had already set up the baby's room in a corner of the second bedroom. Neutral colors, no frills. I was not trying to impress anyone. I just wanted it to be functional and quiet. People asked me if I was okay. I said yes because I was. I had already done the work before all this happened, mentally, financially, and legally. This was not damage control, it was part of the plan. I did not post anything on social media. I did not block Sarah either. I just let everything be there. I let her look and wonder why I was not falling apart or bitter. I know how people like Sarah think. She was expecting a storm. Instead, she got silence. And silence gnaws more than screams. A few weeks later, Sarah wrote again without the excuse of a baby update. This time just a simple message. I have screwed up badly. I did not reply. What did she want me to say? Yes, you did. It is okay. It was not okay. And I was not interested in hearing her try to rewrite history now that her plan B had left her and plan A was asking her to pay rent. Sarah had her chance. She chose her path. She thought she was leveling up, but all she did was trade 7 years for a guy who could not even stick around to hear a heartbeat. I did not need to rub anything in her face. The silence was already doing it for me. And best of all, every move she made now was more proof that I was right. Next chapter. The due date was approaching and Sarah was getting even more desperate to get back into the picture. A few weeks after Sarah moved out and the divorce was officially underway, I had an idea. It had been on my mind for a while, but I was not sure if it was worth it. I already had everything I wanted. My money protected, Sarah out. Her fantasy world collapsed alone, and her lover leaving her as soon as things got serious. But something did not add up, not with him. I kept wondering why a guy like that, mid-level, no money, average at best, would try so hard to win over a married woman with a baby on the way. The numbers did not add up. He was not some lovesick fool chasing romance. He did not want Sarah, he wanted her situation. That is when it clicked for me. He was using Sarah just like she tried to use me, so I did some digging. It was not difficult. I already had his full name from the captures. I looked him up on LinkedIn. I found his work history. From there I located his Facebook, linked to an old but still active email. Public friends list. Rookie mistake. It took me 5 minutes to find his wife. Yes, wife. They had been married for 4 years. They had a child too, a little boy, maybe 2 or 3 years old. Her profile was full of mom content. First steps, days at the park, I cannot wait for summer, and things like that. Meanwhile, her husband was running around playing the passionate lover with someone else's wife, probably promising Sarah this perfect life once he could get out of his situation. I kept investigating silently. It turns out he was not doing very well. According to old posts and public court records, he had had money problems. His car was repossessed last year. He fell behind on rent before his wife's parents helped him out. And then I remembered something Sarah told me once when we were still on good terms, that she had lent money to a friend from work to fix his car. At the time, I did not think anything of it. I assumed it was some female friend from work, but now it all fit together. Sarah never told me who. She never consulted me. She just lent the money and moved on. That friend was him. Now it all made sense. He was not in love. He was broke and saw Sarah as an out, an ATM with bad judgment. So I packaged everything up. Screenshots, messages, the text about the divorce money, timestamps, all clean, no drama, just facts. Then I found his wife's business email. She had a local event planning company. It was on her public website. I sent her everything in a single PDF, no introduction, no accusations, just with the subject line, "You have a right to know the truth." I heard nothing for 3 days. Then I received a one-line email. "Thank you. I knew something was wrong." That was it. Cold, direct. And then the fire started. News travels fast, especially in quiet suburban circles. She confronted him. He broke instantly. I did not see it in person, but I did not need to. A mutual contact who still works at their company told me he disappeared completely. He stopped going to work. Human Resources was asking about him. The rumor is he tried to take medical leave to resolve personal matters. I am pretty sure they knew exactly what that meant. Meanwhile, Sarah started flooding my phone with messages. Not about the baby, not about co-parenting. Pure panic. Why did you do this? You ruined his life. This is between us, not them. Sarah tried to use guilt. She said that now the other child would not have a father, that I had stooped to her level, that I was just being cruel. The usual. The truth is, I did not do it for revenge. I did it because I wanted clarity. I wanted to see the whole picture. And when I saw it, I understood that it was not just about Sarah cheating on me. It was about both of them being opportunists. He used Sarah to cover his ruined finances, and Sarah used me to finance her freedom. They deserved each other. That is why it is poetic that now they do not have each other. Sarah lost everything. Her job was already on the line because of her office relationship. Now that he left her, Human Resources is also looking at Sarah. I heard she took an unpaid leave, probably trying to figure out where to live and how to survive on a single income. He is out of the picture. As far as I know, his wife filed for separation and went to live with her parents. He is probably sleeping on couches and Googling cheap divorce lawyers near me, while blocking calls from collectors. I did not ruin them. They ruined themselves. I just took away their safety net. Best of all, no one knew it was me. I did not post anything. I did not brag. I did not even tell our mutual friends. The message was clean, anonymous, and direct. No traces, no drama, no messy consequences for me. Just two people who thought they were playing the game and discovered they were the pawns. And me, I am still fine, still working, still preparing for the baby. I will be ready. I have everything lined up, stable income. I even opened a new bank account just for baby expenses, so Sarah can never say I did not do my part. Sarah wanted chaos. I gave her structure. Sarah wanted freedom. I gave her consequences. And now Sarah is trapped in the ruins of her little dream, while I sit and watch her try to rebuild on broken ground. Anyway, that is the story. Sarah lost the house, the money, the lover, the job, and what was left of her reputation. I lost 7 kilos, some furniture I did not even like, and a cheating wife I should have left sooner. Not a bad trait. They say revenge is messy, but honestly, if you stay calm, keep evidence, and know when to shut up, it cleans itself up.